Welcome to Horror Movies and Friends. This is day 9 of this mad dash through October, the spooky season. Day 9 of 31 days with 31 different horror movies, 31 different friends. Wave, friend. Wave to the people. That's a friend of mine.
Hi, friend.
Yeah, her name will be revealed in like a sentence or two. And then we will, stay tuned. And then we will be drinking in each episode. There's a drink pairing. Mm-hmm. This is that. And I hope you can see it because this is, the most excited I am about any. Yes, good modeling there. We got a pair of Vanna Whites here today. This is coffee, spoiler alert, but we're going to get to that. This was made in part for this episode, this coffee. I'm so excited to try it. And I am excited to try it and talk about this movie with my esteemed guest, Christine Lascotti. Please.
Hello.
Oh, yeah. Did I say your name right?
You did.
Yes.
You did. Yeah.
Oh, man.
I'm so proud of you.
Yeah, because this is a thing that happens a lot in my life where I realize I never say someone's last name until I have them on a podcast like this. I mean, I guess I've had you on a couple times, but I feel like I've just said Christine. And then in that moment, I have this fear of like, oh shit, I don't know 100% if that's my fear. That's Freddie.
I mean, it's always scary to say so. I mean, you're fortunate that your last name is Green.
Yes.
So it's pretty, there's not a lot of like fear going into it, but I constantly, every guest that we have on the shipping room, whenever we have to say their name, I'm like, okay, before we start recording, please tell me that I'm saying your name correctly, right? If it's not right, please tell me. And then sometimes I still mess it up and then I feel terrible about it for weeks.
Yeah, we're the same person, Christine. And that's why I had you on here. You are a writer, a podcaster. As you said, The Shipping Room is a great show. That's how we met. That's how we fell in friend love.
Yes.
And now it seems like the parallels of our lives just continue to unfold. Like I didn't know you were a horror person, but it doesn't surprise me at all. And so what movie did you make us watch today?
Well, you have to do Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors. Like, is this on your list? And you were like, it is on my list. And I was so excited because, man, this is like my favorite horror movie ever of all time. So this is very exciting.
And it's a very high demand movie on the list. I can tell you that. Everyone was upset that you snatched it up, but you, but I think I might say this every episode, but this one really was the one I was most excited for, I think, because I just knew, I knew enough about it to know it's such an Andy movie. It is such a, and same with, I think, just the nightmare movies in general. I was excited to dive in. And this is my first time seeing A Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors, 1987, directed by Chuck Russell, who directed The Mask, and written by Chuck Russell and co-written by Frank Darabont. We all know Frank Darabont from Green Mile, Shawshank, The Walking Dead lawsuits, all the stuff that we know.
Classics.
The Mist. He seems like he's an upset guy now, but I think this movie is great. And it's streaming on HBO Max. So if you haven't seen it like me a couple hours ago, pause this, watch it, and then join us back in, get your coffee ready. And speaking of, I think before we go any further, Christine, I mean, my coffee's getting cold. So like, are you ready for some coffee?
I'm so ready.
Oh man. And this is why you're even more perfect of a guest, is that you work at a cafe.
I do.
Yeah. So
coffee is my life, man.
Coffee is my life. Oh, Coffee and Freddie.
Coffee and Freddie, that's it.
This is, I didn't actually say what we're drinking. This is the most exciting. It's called Welcome to Grind Time. And this is brewed and roasted by, or not brewed, I brewed it, but roasted by Mother Tongue Coffee out of Oakland, a Latinx owned and woman owned company that I'm so excited to have met and made sort of friends. Like, I think stay tuned. I think I'm going to talk to them about this coffee. Jen Apodaca, who made this coffee, she said she watched The Exorcist and The Shining with her grandmother when she was 4 years old.
I love that.
And I'm impressed by that she's alive. Because at 4 I was watching Care Bears. I don't know about you, Christine.
I was watching a healthy mix when I was 4. I had a little soap operas. I had a little Nightmare on Elm Street. I had a little Sesame Street,
Even at 4, you were watching Elm Street?
Well, I was trying to impress my older cousin, who worked in a movie theater. He had like my older cousin was like my hero, and he had like giant Freddy posters all over his wall. So like 4-year-old me just wanted to impress Danny. So
wow.
Shout out to Danny.
Yeah, we wouldn't be here without you, Danny. And I am now going to pour this glorious Guatemalan blend of coffee here. It's sort of a light, medium, maybe even a dark roast. It sort of depends on when you drink it or the nightmares you're having at the time. Ooh, let's watch this.
Oh man, I'm afraid to sip. I'm waiting for you. I don't want to sip before you.
I think you go in, because you've already, spoiler alert, Christine has had the coffee. She's the expert here. So oh man, that's just like, it never ends, this coffee. I always brew too much for this. And so I will be jittery all day.
If that fits in your mug, it's not too much.
Ooh, that's true. Oh God, it looks great.
Yeah, this is my Gengar spooky mug.
Yeah, so you were all spooky. You even have spooky water. Show the people.
I do. I have spooky water. Spooky water.
Poison and government.
Hopefully not.
That's too spooky, right?
That's a little too spooky for me, Andy.
Sorry. Okay, that's Freddy 4. We're not there yet.
Oh my God, this coffee is so good. Like
it is really good. Oh man, I think I'm getting the sort of lightness of it initially here.
Yeah.
What flavors are you?
I've got berry notes. I definitely taste the berry in here.
Yeah, it definitely has the fruit and a kind of a dark fruit, maybe a stone fruit. I don't know. But I just wanted to say stone fruit, because who doesn't want to say stone fruit? Let's see. I think it has the taste of a coffee that's going to evolve as we go down.
It definitely does. Yeah.
I feel like we'll have to revisit it as we go through some of our own nightmares. Or
I think so.
Is there a certain dream warrior that like exhibits this coffee to you?
I feel like this coffee is going to be a little Joey.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
This is going to be a little Joey, because, you think you know what it is on the surface, but then it's going to start screaming flavor into your mouth.
Ooh. So, okay. So, no! Is going to happen, which is such a good, oh man. I mean, I know that's the ending. We did it. But it was so satisfying.
It was.
This movie, tell me about well, you actually sort of said that Danny introduced these movies to you kind of as a really young kid, but how has it sort of stuck with you, and how has horror been a part of your life?
I mean, I think the reason I love the nightmare movies so much, I think they tap into the scariest thing of all, and that is what lives in our heads. Ooh, yes. Everything in our subconscious. I think our subconscious is where we are the most vulnerable. So like the very concept of a villain who essentially lives in your most vulnerable space during the time that you are most vulnerable in your sleep, I think just in general, that's a wildly innovative concept for the 80s. Especially. And simple. Yeah, and like, very simple.
If you sleep, you're fucked, right? And we all have to sleep. Like that is one of the 3 things we need: air, food, water, and sleep.
And there's also this like weird parallel to the fact that or juxtaposition, I guess is a better word for it. But everybody always says like when they die, they hope that they die in their sleep. Like, I want to go peacefully in my sleep. And this entire franchise just kind of takes that entire idea and is just like, you think that's how you want to go. Let me show you the downside of that.
That's a really cool point. I never thought of it like that. Cause that's like, oh, I'm going to sleep peacefully. And it's like, well, these deaths or these,
not so much.
these nightmares are far from that.
Yeah.
And I think what also sets it apart, this franchise, and this is me being new to it, but it's just so much more creative, and in like the set pieces are so good. The practical effects are amazing, and also just like this sort of how ballsy they are, and sort of I feel like it's weirder, but it's creepier, but like that he's feeding on the souls of children, and he takes off his shirt, and we just see
oh my god
faces.
Yes.
Souls of the children, give me strength.
And that, like, at least every movie there's like 3 tongue things that are just very disturbing but great. Freddy's tongue is almost more iconic than his fingers or his knives.
It's true. Yeah, I think so. And people forget about his tongue a lot.
This is the mother tongue.
Mother tongue.
We did it.
Can we also talk about how Jen sent us these adorable stickers?
Yes.
With our coffee, and I love my stickers so much.
That was a surprise. So good. And there will be links below to buy. It's a limited edition. They made it for this spooky season. This movie sort of feels like the all-star cast too. They got
Larry Fishburne.
I love Larry. That actually makes me think of how in the first movie it's Fred Krueger in the credits, and I really appreciate that too.
Yeah.
It's like the inverse of Larry going to Lawrence. Larry's a nice presence in this movie. He's sort of in the background, but he's a benevolent, he always sort of makes mistakes, but he means well.
Yeah.
Which is, I appreciate Larry for this. Way better than Mrs. Sims or Dr. Sims. God, that woman.
That woman's terrible. What do I know her from? Do you know what I know her from? I do this too.
No, I don't know. She looks like every mean old lady in a movie. That's what she's. So you know her just from your nightmares. You know her because you've seen this movie 10 times.
Maybe. I don't know.
I'm sure she's in a lot. Let's Andy, look at the Chiron will be filled with what that woman is from, and it will answer that question. I hope so.
Oh my god.
Heather Langenkamp. So there was a TV show in the 80s called Just the 10 of Us. And this was a spin-off of Growing Pains. And it was Mike Seaver's gym teacher following him home. And you find out that Mike Seaver's gym teacher has 8 kids. And Heather Langenkamp was like the second oldest daughter on that show. And that was the only thing I ever knew her from until I saw Nightmare on Elm Street. And I was like, oh my God, it's the girl from Just the 10 of Us. So she was like the superstar celebrity for me as a kid seeing this movie.
That's really funny. Like I imagine you're in the big minority of people that are like,
I assume that
he's from Just the 10 of Us. Yeah, it's
it's got a great theme song.
That's like me and Penn Badgley being, or like my partner in Penn Badgley was like, the guy from The Do-Over, at like a failed WB comedy that is great. I highly recommend it. I'll send you the DVD.
Penn Badgley, what did he end up doing? I don't know.
I don't know. Some other projects that I spent a lot of time on. These movies, they're almost like a highlight reel in terms of like the kills or the deaths. And I know that's sort of in a bad way. Sometimes that's what these movies are reduced to, like,
right.
Oh, like let's count how many there are and how they die. But they're so creative and cool and also disturbing. Like which one sort of like the TV one to me was so good.
Every movie, every death in this movie is one of those really iconic Nightmare on Elm Street deaths. For me, the puppeteer.
Yes.
The clock tower one, that one is like huge for me. And I don't know, do you remember the NSYNC music video for It's Gonna Be Me, where they were all marionettes?
Oh, do you think it was
I think subconsciously, whoever directed and came up with the concept for that music video had to have seen this movie.
yeah, whether it was intentional or not,
Yeah.
Freddie has haunted that person, I think.
Yeah.
The tendons as the puppet
Yes.
strings for this
It would.
guy.
Oh.
And it's so good because he makes puppets.
Yeah.
The kid, I forget his name because he's our first
He's the
fallen
first kill.
member.
Yeah.
But that one was like, oh, okay, this movie
It sets the tone.
Yes. And it's just like, oh,
for sure.
This movie's going for it. And I think then the
Yes.
TV thing happens before I even really get a chance to think about the coffee I'm going to have the next day. You know, like I wasn't ready for it. And then because I thought we're gonna be with her a little bit longer. She wanted to be an actress, and I just love it's like it's like it's showtime, baby, or whatever he says as he just like shoves her into the TV.
It's prime time, ready
It's
for the prime time.
It's prime time, yes. Oh,
yeah. Which is where we get our coffee grind time.
There it is. Oh my, well
it
done.
All connects.
It all connects. Jen, you genius.
She is a genius.
So is Robert Englund. So is Patricia Arquette. Is really good at screaming. I was worried I was going to wake up my partner last night. I was like, the volume was like really low, but it was still just like whenever she screamed.
I got it. The like sound mechanics of this movie are all over the place. Because I had it on a low volume because the scary moments are so overwhelmingly loud. And then like it ends and then everybody is talking in a really, really quiet volume. And then I'm like, all right, I got to turn the volume up. And then, oh my God. And then I'm like, oh my.
But I think
I'm just miming everything.
Just, yeah, you're doing the levels of the
I'm
sound.
the marionette right now.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about like I guess we sort of just dove in and assuming people know what we're talking about. And I think they do, but the Dream Warriors is a reference to these kids that are all they're in a mental institution. They're all having dreams of Freddie, and the adults, of course, don't believe them because that's what adults do. Adults suck. Sorry, adults. That's us now.
That's us. We suck.
We do suck. That's a great message in every movie. Adults suck. Kids are the answer. That's the answer. That's the 100%. Theme of Nightmare on Elm Street. And that like the only thing that Dr. Sims says that's true is that the dreams are manifestations of guilt, but she says they're manifestations of the kid's guilt, but it's not. It's manifestations of the parents who killed Freddie and continue to not tell the truth or not help their children or ignore them. Like the mom is just saying that Kristen needs attention, you know, and this is someone who cuts her wrists in her dream because Freddie makes her, right?
Yes.
And so it's so easy to just basically, everyone's taking a shortcut with these kids. Everyone is just, they're crazy. There's something wrong with them. They want attention. Right. It's not my problem. Fix them. Rather than accepting that there are nightmarish things in the world. And I mean, in this movie, it's in our dreams, but it's basically saying, look outside the window. Your kids are absorbing this too.
Yep.
And of course it's disturbing. And I think now more than ever, like this movie works, unfortunately, just as well now. I mean, yeah. And I'll just sort of bring it up now, but like the mental health aspect of this project, you know, it really is an empowering movie in a wonderful way of, you know, finding your dream power, your dream gift, Dream Warriors, right? They come into their own and to do it together, and also to see what happens when we listen to kids, when we listen to people's problems. And that juxtaposed with, you know, a guy injecting people with, you know, drugs is like, that's so over the top and sort of scary and salacious, but it's just only more effective because of that.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's get home.
Who's your favorite Dream Warrior?
I mean, the answer is Nancy. because I
She's
think
like the dream queen.
she is the queen of this franchise.
Yes.
Basically her and a character that you'll meet in the next movie, they're like the queens of the franchise.
Another queen
and
bee. Okay.
and it's kind of like I love that moment when, because they're assuming when you watch this movie that you have already watched the first two, so you already kind of know who Nancy is when she walks in and finishes.
It's a great intro. Yeah,
it's an amazing intro, and like this isn't the kind of movie that like needed to give her that intro, but like I love that she walks in, she finishes the Freddie rhyme, though because Kristen stops at 7-8 better stay up late, and she's just sobbing, and Nancy walks in, finishes it, and like the camera just pauses on her, and you have that moment to like breathe, where like the audience is probably like, oh my god, they're probably losing their shit in the movie theater because we haven't seen Nancy in a long time. So it's like, yeah, here she is, she's gonna save the day, because you just
and we didn't really know at the end of the first one if she's alive or dead, right? And also it's been 5 years, and I think a lot of people similar to Nancy have sort of grown up with these movies in a little ways, and it's been a couple years since the last one. And yeah, I love that they sort of do it without saying this is Nancy or welcome.
Right.
Like we see her name for the first time on her pills, I believe. That's how we know for sure. But I mean, we know immediately, like she has the white streak in her hair. Her hair is gloriously 80s.
Glorious.
Her hair or her wardrobe is so good. And that it just, immediately she's a calming presence and just hugs Patricia Arquette. And we even like, I mean, I knew that Nancy came back. I was able to not know for sure if she was in this movie until I saw that the actress's name, right? So that was really cool to be able to preserve that. I just knew Nancy was coming, didn't know when, but then when they were saying, like the young hotshot, grad student, I was like, oh, that's Nancy. That's got to be Nancy. And I was so stoked that it was Nancy.
So stoked.
Because Neil sucked until Nancy came, and then Neil came through at the end.
So Neil creeps me out a little bit because
they have sort of a weird relationship.
They have a weird relationship because she's supposed to be 24. If you do the math, because she's like 18 in the first movie, and then they say 6 years have passed, so all right, 24-ish, we'll say, in that category. Neil is like a lot older than that, and I see your cat, and I love your cat.
He's the Freddy of this set. That means we're not in reality anymore, Christine.
I love it. Who wants to be in reality? But but like he's like, I can't tell if he's supposed to be her mentor, if he's trying to get in her pants. There's just this weird energy with him the whole time. And then like he says something later on to her father where he's like, do you care about her at all? Because I do. And I was like, oh shit. Like, in what capacity here, sir?
I agree with that. Yeah, that was a weird thing, but I'm glad that it could have been worse, right? They could have had a romance. Instead they just had awkward Thai food, right? And it was just like, this is the only Thai food in this area. And I was like, what is this scene? But
I think that whole scene is so that you get that classic 80s shot of Nancy sitting on the couch, like leaning against the pillow. That I feel like is in every 80s movie. At some point, the actress has to like casually lean against the pillow.
That's what you do during the afternoons, right?
No. Oh. During the afternoons, that's not what I'm sleeping on the couch.
You've been taken over by Freddie. You haven't had enough coffee.
Haven't had it.
And I was going to say, back to the mother tongue here, I'm getting more chocolate as we go along. It's
definitely,
it is becoming a little bit richer, I would say, and fuller and darker. It's sort of, it is like we're in act 2.
Every sip that I take, it tastes darker. And I love that. I love the building of the flavors. It's so good.
And that mirrors this movie, I think, because it just keeps ramping up. And, I sort of said the injection, kill. I know that one's iconic, and I've seen that still so many times, but it also, I think it's just used as shock value now, but that scene is so effective with, God, forgive me, I don't remember her name. Taryn, yes. And that Taryn is an addict before. And I think actually what is most disturbing, other than just the needle fingers, is the marks on her, the track marks from the scars from the needles that are like, they're sort of opening up like mouths wanting to be fed. And that is so good and disturbing, and is saying a lot about addiction, and that she, you know, is forced. It's dark.
Especially because it's so sad that is how Freddie takes her, especially because she like wards off the guard who offers her drugs right beforehand. So it's like this girl has made this choice that she is going to stay clean, and then Freddie just fucks it all up.
Yes. Yeah. And to me, that felt like Freddie is almost he represents the parents or the older generation, the government, like whatever you want to sort of say, but it almost does sort of feel like society forcing these things on kids, right? And like, so she had no choice, and I'm so glad she said no to that creepy orderly guy.
Yeah.
The only thing, like, did we ever, that was sort of left hanging. That guy was never dealt with, right?
No.
I really wanted him he needed to get killed. I think that
he needed to be some collateral damage at some point.
Yeah, I think that's like if there's one little thing where I was like, wait, that was left hanging, and he was so much of a monster that it felt like we needed to get him out of here.
I feel like he's just as big of a monster as Freddie. And if this movie was written today, I think somebody would have written that scene in there where maybe he falls asleep in the break room and has like a quick Freddie death moment, you know?
Yeah. Instead, we went with the female orderly sort of becoming Freddie, or you know, the naked, and which a very salacious sort of sexy scene, but also so effective too.
Oh my God. Poor Joey.
poor Joey. I love Kincaid. We haven't talked about Kincaid.
I love Kincaid.
Kincaid is so cool. I mean, yeah, his thing is strength, right? And he's stronger in his dreams. I love all like what it says about their characters, what their dream thing is, that Kristen is like an acrobat. And that, Joey's is his voice, you know, when he can bring it back, because he's mute when he's in, I guess, reality, when he's awake. I'm really thankful for the sort of portrayal of people of color in this movie. Kincaid doesn't die, neither does Larry, neither does Max. And I mean, yes, he seems complicated. It's not just, I'm, you know, brash, loud black dude, right?
Right.
And I even could read him as maybe queer in some ways. Like there was some, like, I don't know.
Interesting.
I don't know. Or even non-binary. So like there was just, and I think that's what's so good about this movie is the kids have untold backstory and untold depth, but we can see it, and they're not just caricatures of themselves.
Yeah. I mean, especially with Kristen, I think all you need to know is that first scene with her mom, and you get a complete picture of who she is. Like, she's staying up, she's eating instant coffee. Her mom has some guy outside the door who's like, "Where's the bourbon, lady?" And like, you just kind of, you know, like you have everything you need to know about who she is right there. And the writers do an excellent job of that. I think with every character, you get a little snippet that will tell you everything you need to know about this person. And very good at that.
Yeah. And even Kristen's, like, the wallpaper of her, you know, it's so dark and freaky, and like
that was 80s. That was the 80s, man.
It was a dark time.
You don't remember going to a relative's house that had like that exact bed and that exact like wallpaper? Oh my God.
I'm a young 80s. I was 88, you know, so I'm
a little older than you, sir. To your point that you were saying about, you know, how the ultimate thing with this movie is that kids know better than adults. I think that Nancy becomes like that perfect bridge for it, because Nancy is kind of still a kid. Like, we remember Nancy as a kid. And she's not that much older than them. And I wouldn't put her in the same boat as Neil. Like, she's not a grown-up either. So she kind of is that perfect gap.
She gets her own boat. Yeah.
Yeah, to be the person who says, you don't understand what these kids are experiencing. I do. You have to trust me. And like, she's able to gain the trust of the adults. She's able to gain the trust of the kids, and she can like solve everything because she's Nancy. She's the superpower lady. Love her.
Well, and really but she doesn't actually have a superpower. All the other ones actually have dream powers. Hers is just to bring people together. Is that accurate? Like, because we don't see her do anything. Kristen's the one that brings everyone together literally, and that she can pull people into dreams, which is really cool. But it is Nancy who notices that, sees that, and also sees the power of all of these kids, having been to it before, having been through the trauma, and now on the other side. And post Hypnosil, this movie is just a big product placement for pharma. So we just need to take.
Let's talk about that for a sec.
Okay, please.
No. No.
What drugs are you on, Christine? Caffeine
And spooky water.
We don't know what's in the spooky water, but pharma has something in there. We don't know.
I told you, water has memory. The movie Frozen 2, they talk all about it. I know it's not spooky enough for you.
No, Frozen 2, Olaf is plenty creepy for me.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah, I haven't seen Frozen 2 yet, but I am ready to go into the unknown. Okay. I think that's I'm gonna have that tattooed on my back. That's how I want to live my life, is go into the unknown. Each cup of coffee, each movie. I don't know where I'm going. And that's the best feeling for me.
So there's one scene that I want to mention.
Please.
So at the end, in the car yard, the junkyard, whatever you call it. Now for circa 1987, that skeleton fight is pretty cool. Like, for us now, it looks a little cheesy because, we have better effects and technology now. But in 1987, that was a really cool thing to watch. That whole skeleton coming to life, fighting Neil, like.
To me, that looks better than the CGI version of what we'd see today, because I don't know why we're obsessed with trying to make something look as real, quote unquote real as possible, because I mean, we all know it's a fucking movie at the end of the day. It's more cool to me to see how the artists created this skeleton, and it is so much more unique and a little bit weirder and off, and that's what makes it cool, and also a little bit scarier. And also, it's definitely a nod to, I want to say, House on Haunted Hill has a very sort of a skeleton scene, and also Ray Harryhausen is famous for like his skeleton stop motion. And so that to me is just movie magic that like is sort of lost with the CGI stuff. Like CGI has its place for sure. I'm not here saying it's all bad for sure. Like I think, but it needs to be a blend rather like a blend of coffee, we want the light, medium, and dark roast. Yes, welcome to grind time.
And I feel like that skeleton fight gets lost in there sometimes, because that's really impressive and cool too. And that's like the one thing I don't hear people talk about a lot when they talk about the coolness of this movie. So I wanted to give that a little love.
I appreciate that, and I think because it is sort of slightly a different flavor too. And it makes sense because it's in the world of reality kind of, and then it's with the adults of the movie,
right?
So it is a little bit different. And I also, my note with that scene was like, I mean, I know the junkyard, basically they're just there forever, but in my mind I'm like, don't the cars eventually get junked? Like, what if that car just got junked in 20 years? Like, they're screwed, right? But like, nothing has moved in 20 years. The Cadillac's still there. But I'm like, obviously I love it, but I'm just like, that's funny to me. And it was nice to see them, like John Saxon, come back, because he's great. And he's had a huge horror thing too. Like Black Christmas is one of my favorite movies. And like, the inception of slasher genre in a lot of ways. So him getting a sort of another piece of the pie, and being so different from what he was in the first movie, because he's now the mom of Nancy, right? Nancy's mom was the drunk. Nancy's mom dies in number 1, and now he's just miserable about all of his mistakes. Oof.
Oof, indeed. And also, like, not even that willing to do what he needs to do to fix them, which is also kind of weird. Like,
yeah, no, he's given an opportunity for redemption, and it takes fucking Neil, to be the one who forces him to do it. He even tries to get the keys. Remember, he tries to drive away. But I really like that. We're not pulling punches on this guy, where he doesn't get a redemptive arc until we see Force Ghost Dad at the end, when we think Freddy's been vanquished by Joey. And then, but we know it's similar to the first one, where it's like, that was too easy. Yeah, and it's too flowery. The lighting is sort of like, ooh, it's still dreamlike. It's like, this is the happy thing. This doesn't happen in reality. Right. And like, he's saying exactly what Nancy needs him to say. Like, I'm so sorry for all the things that I did. I love you. And I'm so glad that was Freddy. And
and then I'm so glad that Freddy kills her.
Yes. I'm glad that they, oh man, I'm not glad that, but like, in terms of the movie, it's a better movie for that, is what I mean.
It is, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And another moment, because I think what I really like about Freddy is his masochism, and the fact that, like, when he gets impaled by the pipe, he takes it out and then he licks it. You know, a movie would have the taking it out thing, but the fact that he licks his own blood,
he licks it. Oh,
that's
so gross.
that's that extra little thing that makes this coffee and this movie just like on another level, I think.
Also, I think creepier than anything else in this movie, the nun.
Ooh,
the nun, so creepy.
Nuns are creepy in general.
Nuns are creepy. Nuns. Like, let's hashtag nuns are creepy. Like, start there. Sorry if you're a nun watching this.
There's a lot. This is a big nun movie.
I don't know how much of the clergy is gonna watch.
This is a big clergy movie. I'm glad you brought up the nun, because I wanna humble brag and say, I was like, oh, that's gotta be Freddy's mom. I was like,
really?
Oh yeah, I did. I not immediately, but it was sort of, I think the second time she shows up, when she tells the story about what happened to Freddy's mom, I'm like, oh, that's the only way she knows that is if it's her. And also, it just sort of made sense that the only way she could sort of cope or be this was to join the church. And sort of, it's a very interesting thing, because there's this like subplot with Neil and the nun where she's like, ooh, just faith and science isn't enough. And it almost even like it's vanquished. Freddy's vanquished by getting a proper burial, by holy water. And so it's like, there's a reading of this film that's sort of pro-religion or pro-faith, but I think faith is a good thing in the sort of the vague sense of like, yeah, we need to have faith in ourselves, and also sort of, but yeah, how did you take all that?
Well, I mean, I think as far as faith goes, like, it's faith in, like, you know, the kids have to have faith in Nancy, that she's telling them the truth. Nancy is asking for Neil to have faith in her. Like, you know, there's a lot of trust in this movie amongst everybody. You know, the kids have to trust each other too. In going into this whole dream thing together. You have to, there's like Inception level trust, you know, like, as far as like the planning, and here's what we're going to do when we get into the dream state.
That's so cool. Like an example of how this is an elevated thing of number 3, or sorry, of number 1 in every way, is that Nancy has that idea of like having shifts and inviting Glenn over to watch her sleep and be like, hey, if I fall asleep, wake me up, you know. And Glenn, of course, because sucks and falls asleep. But like, the kids in this, they have each other's back. They care about each other, and you do find that they can trust each other. They're good at this. They know what they're doing, which is great.
Yeah, they're definitely smarter than any of the kids in the Nightmare movie prior to this.
Christine, I think it's probably time to sort of close the book here on Dream Warriors. I
Yeah.
mean, I know we could go on forever. I have a blast talking with you, and I feel like that's many more coffees to come.
Many more.
Yeah, and I wish the Zoom is great that it exists. I wish we could be in a coffee shop together right now. But I believe someday we will, you know.
Oh, for sure.
We
I'm going to
will-
make my way back out to your coast soon.
and vice versa, or you know, we'll get Kristen to pull us into the same groove, and we will find that middle ground, and yeah, have some coffee, talk Freddie and soap operas. You know, that's what we do. So Christine, thank you so much for joining me.
Of course, Andy. Always a pleasure.
And
I love that you're doing this. This is amazing.
I love that I'm doing this too. Yeah. The Andy who edits this will like it a little bit less. Wolfmandy is having a great time. Wolfmandy has no responsibilities. It's Andy that has to deal with this. And so let's all, you know, give Andy a pat on the back and a hug. But also just like, yeah,
I'm patting you from far away.
Thank you. Yeah. And why I am doing this is for a friend who, in my mind, was a dream warrior and did have these battles, and that he even struggled with the reality of his dreams. You know, he suffered from maladaptive daydreaming, and this is something that isn't even diagnosable. He couldn't get meds for it. He couldn't get help, and he didn't think he deserved help. And everyone deserves help. And that's why I'm doing a fundraiser for the Trevor Project. And this is an amazing nonprofit that is dedicated to helping LGBTQ plus youth. So if you have the means, please don't do it if you don't. It's uncomfortable for me to ask for money. I don't have it. But it's there's a link below if you can rub some pennies together and try and end this nightmare. And I will continue this positive dream of mine tomorrow or whenever the next video comes. And this is the end. This is the end of the first chat, like of our nightmare streak. We did 3. I'm going to rest that game. I will return. Don't know if I'll do it on camera. But tomorrow's episode, day 10's, is with an old friend. Christine and I both know this wonderful woman, Kat Pettipone.
Oh,
Kat Pettipone, yeah. We are watching Jennifer's Body, and that, believe it or not, is on the Criterion channel. So if and is it deservedly so? We will talk about it. I imagine I might be the villain of tomorrow's episode. We'll see.
interesting.
I have some thoughts, but I did enjoy the movie. Don't worry. So
knowing Kat, she has some thoughts too. So
oh, good. We have some thoughts. I will be having some wine, a She-Devil Syrah from Columbia Valley, Washington, which feels like a perfect pairing for Megan Fox, the ultimate She-Devil. And yeah, so we will be watching Jennifer's Body. Watch along. That's your homework and mine. And I will see you all at the next phase of the moon. Thank you for joining me. And Christine, this would be where I would hold your hand in reality as I say this over dramatic poem. Let's howl at the moon for the friends we miss, the friends we wish were here to see this.